Hello and welcome to IR Magazine TV. This is the first in our new series about women in IR, looking at how to move towards gender parity and gender equality in the IR profession. We're joined today by Theresa Molloy, Vice President of Governance and Shareholder Services at Prudential Financial, and also the President of NIRI New York. So thank you for joining us, Theresa.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Now, as you know, IR Magazine's recent research showed that women are less likely to be represented in the top IR professions, despite there being an equal gender split across the profession as a whole. Women are also less likely to earn above $250,000 a year. Does that surprise you, or what is your sort of response to those stats?
Well, I would say that the leadership roles in IR, that does surprise me because I know so many accomplished women IROs. Regarding the compensation, I would say that I am more disappointed than I am surprised. However, I do think that your study can be helpful because anytime you have empirical data that points to a pay disparity, this data can be helpful, and it can be helpful when HR managers are really evaluating an investor relations role, and they can use the data to ensure that there's gender pay parity. So I see it that it can hopefully affect change.
Sure, let's hope so. Now, you started your career at the American Stock Exchange, moved on to the New York Stock Exchange Euronext, and then joined Prudential Financial in 2013. Noting that you've also been serving as the president of NIRI New York, you presumably have a pretty good insight into the next generation of IR professionals. So how has the gender split in the IR profession changed throughout the duration of your career?
Well, I would say that truthfully, what I'm seeing right now is that less about a gender split and more about migration of individuals, both men and women, migrating from Wall Street to IR. That's a separate topic, but I think a great example of new leadership in investor relations actually comes from the NIRI New York Next Gen initiative. This initiative was started by my board colleague Deb Wasser in an effort to identify and cultivate up-and-coming talent in the IR community. So, and there are two women leaders of the Next Gen initiative. One is Mary Kate McGilly, and another is Allison Monette. And I will tell you that they are really, really outstanding examples of the future leadership of investor relations.
Fantastic. And when women in leadership is discussed, we often hear about the importance of mentorship and female role models. So irrespective of gender, as you think back through your career, to what extent have you benefited from mentors, and how has that influenced your career?
Sure. Well, I would say, I've had the privilege and the honor when I was at the American Stock Exchange, when I was at the New York Stock Exchange, and currently at Prudential, to really have outstanding women mentors. That being said, I would, whether my mentors have been men or women throughout my career, the mentors all had three common qualities. The first quality is the ability to listen intently. The second quality is to really be able to recognize and publicly acknowledge team leadership and acknowledge their success. And I would say that the third quality is to be respectful of everyone on the team, regardless of their stature.
Excellent. Now, what advice would you give to young female IR professionals hoping to have a long and successful career in IR? And is there any way that would vary from the type of advice that you would give young male professionals in the IR profession?
Well, I would say for the aspirational IRO, whether they're male or female, there are a number of qualities that I know are important in the field. One is that certainly it's a communications job, so you have to be extremely articulate. The other is strategic thinking. IROs are constantly challenged to think strategically, and then I would also say their analytical skills are extremely important, because the role of investor relations is so dynamic, and because the IRO reaches so many different departments and business units within an organization. the up and coming IROs really have to be very nimble, and they have to be able to pivot from project to project. And one thing is certain, that when you're sitting in the IR seat, it's very dynamic, and you will never be bored. The other thing that I would mention that I think is very important is that the IR community is very small, and it's a very, very tight network. There are people who I have met throughout my career that I actually started with many years ago that I still see today. And I'll give you an example. On the New York NIRI board, there are 3 board members who actually started at the same investor relations firm over 20 years ago. That's where they started their career. And while their careers their paths have crossed over the years, they wound up literally sitting on the same board together. So it's a small community, and it's all about the network.
Amazing. I guess it's true what they say about, don't step on people on the way up.
We have long memories, and again, it's a great community.
Sure. Now, as we think about diversity, there's an additional layer of relevance from an IR perspective, which is that investors are increasingly waking up to the importance of diversity as a broader business issue, both at board level and sort of throughout organizations. Now, at Prudential, you guys do a fantastic job of sort of outlining what diversity means to you. You have a definition on your corporate governance webpage. In your proxy statement, you have a matrix of the director skills, backgrounds, and so on, in addition to their biographies being very searchable. To what extent has this come up over the years in conversations with investors, and how has that changed?
Well, thank you very much for recognizing our proxy. I would also say that Corporate Secretary Magazine has recognized Prudential's outstanding leadership in proxy development over the years, so thank you. It's absolutely accurate. Certainly, diversity is a core value of our board, and that permeates throughout our organization. As a matter of fact, over 2/3 of our board members are diverse. Regarding investors, yes, over the last couple of years, this has become a more important topic. Diversity has become a more important topic. Just recently, back in March 2017, State Street announced guidance for board diversity. Also, CalPERS this proxy season made board diversity one of their priorities in proxy voting. But even for companies like Prudential that are leaders in diversity, investors want to know specifically how we plan for board refreshment, and they want to know that the leadership and the plans that you have in place today are regarding gender diversity is something that's going to certainly be evident throughout the lifetime of the organization.
Excellent. And then, moving a couple of levels down and thinking about the investor relations professionals and profession as people who interact with investors, I'm reminded of professional services firms talking about, needing to sort of represent the values that their clients want to see and kind of practicing what they preach in that respect. Mm-hmm. So how important is it to sort of move towards gender parity in these more senior IR positions as we move forward?
Mm-hmm. Well, truthfully, I think that that diversity extends way beyond the IR role. The IRO is frequently the first point of contact for investors, but I think investors look at the organization holistically. They certainly look at it starting with the board, and if the board's practice and principles embrace diversity, the behavior should be evident throughout the organization, and certainly it should be evident in the investor relations role.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Theresa, for joining us. Thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. And look out for more videos in this new series about women in the IR profession. Thank you very much.
Thank you.